had a Ric Flair moment. Well, I did have a Ric Flair moment. Good evening. It's the great show again. And what I like for you to do, if you're on YouTube, give a brother a look. See, if you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. Today's topic, white evangelicals. You know who they are. Kenneth Copeland, Paula White, Joyce Myers, uh, Jim Baker. It's a whole host of them. They usually come on, what's that? Pat Robinson's. Pat Robinson. What's it? 700 Club, TVN. You know, these folks that have these, Joel Osteen, that have these large mega churches. They talk loud, but they ain't saying nothing. Just last week, Paula White had a video. I'm quite sure y'all saw it, where she basically was praying for 45. I ain't got no problem with people praying for leadership. That's what we all need to do. Pray for our leadership. Pray for the folks that's up over us and whatever. But when you start praying and preaching and giving reverence to these folks and stepping over God, I got a problem with that. It's amazing how these people can yell, I'm pro-life, I'm against homosexuality, I'm against all these things, but Breonna Taylor got killed, and you didn't see Paula White in the pulpit going, I hear the sound of thunder. I hear the sound of rain. I hear the sound. We're going to come down quickly to Kentucky, and we're going to come down quickly. I didn't hear her say that. Or Kenneth Copeland, when he got up there in the pulpit on the 8th, when they said Joe Biden is president, and he laughing like he's hysterical or something, like he the Joker. Ha 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 ha. Like, the hell is wrong with you? And you had some of them old tap dancing Negroes sitting right up in this congregation, laughing, ha 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 ha. And there's a funny thing about that thing too. Aren't we under a global pandemic? What were the mask on these people? They sitting out there all close, all up together and everything else. No mask on, no nothing on. Laughing up there with Kenneth Copeland. Ha, 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 ha. I want to say the joke's on you, some of you black folks sitting up there laughing. While you sitting there living hand to mouth, this dude has a $750 million fortune. He got his own airstrip at his house. While you rubbing your nickels together, trying to get a flight on Southwest, he got his own super jet that can take him anywhere he wants to go on your dime. Paula White, same thing. Craig Flo Dollar, I'm not, excusing them, some of them black folks, because they follow some of the white folks too. Talking about prosperity. Yes, God wants us to be prosperous. He wants us to be fruitful. He wants us to be that way. But not at the expense of everybody else. Creflo Dollar talking about he needs $60 $65 million to get a jet. You can fly coach just like everybody else, bro. You don't need no jet. Where you going? And it's funny when my man Jacob Blake was shot in the back 7 times in Wisconsin. You ain't hear none of these white evangelicals say nothing about it. They were praising the police. Well, good. Law enforcement did their job. They ain't said nothing about this brother got paralyzed for the rest of his life. Don't get me started on Trayvon Martin. You got Paula White was no more than an hour away. Well, I think she was in Apopka at the time. Apopka is nowhere from Sanford. Nowhere from Sanford. She didn't say not one word about the death of Trayvon Martin. That's 2012. But let Orange Man talk about something, and Paula White, his spiritual advisor, yes, we feel the spirit of President Trump. About 250,000 people have felt the spirit of President Trump too. Yeah. It's funny how these white evangelicals can get these black folks to run to them like little children. It had folks around there. Paula White had a church in my hometown of Lakeland without walls, which her and her first husband, well, second husband actually, started in Tampa and brought over to Lakeland and did whatever. She had folks run around there calling her Mama Paula. Like they're on the plantation somewhere. Well, Mama Paula said this. That ain't your mama. She may have took care of your mama on the plantation or breastfed one of your mama, but Paula White ain't your mama. Paula White went over there and gangstered a church that was founded by the late Zachary Timms and his wife Reva in Apopka. Gangstered the church. Running around there and Fabletics sport gear up there talking about, I hear the sound of thunder. I hear. That ain't thunder, Paula. That ain't no thunder you talking about. But we black folks, we run over there like, ooh. This is the same little trick that they used during slavery, where they whooped your family and my family for 6 days of the week. And then on the 7th day, we were supposed to give reverence to our master. If you don't obey your master, you ain't going to heaven. Or, the proper black folks call them massacres. They weren't giving him no props. These are the same folks that put on Klan hoods and lynched your family, burnt crosses in your yard, but on Sunday morning, they singing Amazing Grace. Or How Great Thou Art. Or Just a Closer Walk. When knowing good and well they wasn't trying to take no closer walk with nobody. They was trying to take a closer walk, all right. We have systemic racism, police brutality, disproportionate distribution of wealth. They don't talk about that. Kenneth Copeland don't talk about that. He's sitting up in a mansion that's about 5 football fields long or whatever. with his private airstrip on his yard. He ain't talking about that. Kenneth Copeland so bold, he took the name off of one of the churches here. Y'all know the name of it. Gangster, that says mine. He ain't care nothing about y'all black folk. As long as y'all was giving him that money and giving him that reverence, he don't care nothing about y'all. But y'all follow behind him like ticks on the dog. When these people mean you no good, no good. You worship God in spirit and in truth. But these people mean you no good. You ain't heard not one of them talk about Breonna Taylor. When George Floyd was killed, all of them were silent. But when Orange Man talk about he's the president and Joe Biden didn't win, all of them jumped up like a Kenneth Copeland, Paula White, Jim Baker, with his disgraceful ass. I said it. All of them jumped up. President Trump is the true leader that God has put in place, not Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. He's the devil. How you gonna call somebody the devil? Had a pastor preaching saying, we must defeat this devil, Joe Biden. What did Joe Biden do to you? Joe Biden just went in a fair and honest election and he won. But because their man didn't win, they got a problem. He's not a man of God. How do you know who's who? How do you know who God didn't call and who God didn't call? God didn't want Saul to be the king of Israel. He didn't. But the people were crying and we want Saul. So God said, all right, I give you Saul. I gave him to you. Watch the smoke. God told Saul to destroy everything the Amalekites had. Destroy it. Their cattle, their land, everything. These people are foul. They coming up against me and I can't have that. I'm God Almighty. Get these folks up out of here. Saul spared them. Saul spared them. What did they do? They came through and they was taking over. They gangstered the land. They punished the people. And God said, see, I told you, obedience is better than sacrifice. If you would obey me like I told you and got rid of these folks. They're building idols. They doing things, they stepping above me. And that's the same thing these white evangelicals are doing. Look at how these folks living. Now, I ain't got nothing against somebody having something nice. But if you got everything nice and your parishioners are living hand to mouth, then there's something wrong, bro. There's something wrong with your gospel. These same people, Dr. King talked about these same people in 1963 when he wrote the letter from Birmingham jail. Oh, y'all forgot about that one, didn't you? To me, that was probably one of Dr. King's most powerful works. He wrote it on scraps of paper sitting inside the Birmingham jail. He said, wow, People are hurting, water spraying on them, dogs biting their flesh, being killed. You stand back and you watch like, ain't my business. You stand back, you don't say a thing. And that's the worst person. When you see injustice being committed, you stand back and you do nothing. That's just like the person committing it, the terrible act. Yes, I'm talking to you, Kenneth Copeland. Yes, I'm talking to you, Paula White, Jim Baker. You watched in horror just like everybody else did as that police officer put his knee in George Floyd's neck for 8 minutes and 46 seconds. I don't care what George Floyd had done up until then. He's still human. You arrest, you detain, you take him on to where he needs to go and let the system play itself out. But none of y'all said a word about it. None of y'all. Your president called NFL football players sons of bitches. In the same game y'all white evangelicals watch too. Y'all have some of these so-called football players in y'all congregation, and because they sliding some of the money, y'all ain't saying nothing about it. But when your president gets up there and calls them out their names, when your president gets up there and demeans Colin Kaepernick, you don't say a doggone thing. When Colin Kaepernick was talking about the same thing you should be talking about in your pulpits, you don't say nothing. But you got your girl running around there yelling, jumping up in the pulpit like she's jumping on hot coals, talking about, I feel the angels from Africa. Wait a minute. In Africa, the continent that your president, that you're the spiritual advisor to, called a shithole country. He didn't want immigrants from shithole countries. But isn't this president that locks kids up in cages and keeps them away from their parents? Is this the same one? Have them sleeping on cold concrete floors, ain't giving them soap and water to wash themselves, or toothpaste to brush their teeth, none of that. But you white evangelicals, y'all know about that. Because y'all used to watch that when they used to sell us off. When they used to auction us off, y'all, the same ones holding the Bible, talking about the Lord this, the Lord that. But you couldn't stop that. Didn't want to. The same ones watching water hose, high pressure water hoses being sprayed on people, dogs biting flesh. But you didn't stop that. But you still got up Sunday morning and preached about God. The same ones in horror watched as 4 little girls get blown up in the church. And then 2 young men get killed afterward. But the same white evangelicals did not raise a hand in Alabama. They was in there singing, Amazing Grace in their churches. It wasn't until 2 years after Dr. King wrote that letter and Bloody Sunday that some of the white evangelicals kind of like, wait a minute, something is going on. Pastor James Reed white minister from Boston was killed in Selma, standing up for what he thought was right and what he thought was wrong. He said, no, I can't stand by idly by no more. But it's far and few. Paula White, you should know better. You got more black parishioners in your in your church than a little bit. I know about Apopka. See, you scurried away from Lakeland and ran over to Apopka. You ain't scurried too far. Kenneth Copeland, you and that hysterical laughing. You and that crazy thing. COVID is like a blow. But yet and still your parishioners ain't got on the mask first.
Hello?
They don't have a mask first.
Okay.
They sitting around there laughing with you.
No. I can't be. Give me a minute.
Rest in peace, Bishop Harry Jackson. He kind of flowed with those white evangelicals. But like I said, when y'all holler pro-life, life, it doesn't matter if it's a fetus or walking across the street. It's still life.
Okay, you need me to go into Credible?
Because none of y'all raised a hand. None of y'all went out.
I'm incredible.
Went out and spoke against this demonic evil. You didn't. It takes people like Dr. William Barber, Dr. Jamal Bryant, and other folks who got the courage and the guts to talk about that in the pulpit, the way Dr. Vernon Johns did, and the way he taught Martin Luther King to do it, and Ralph Abernathy to do it, and C.L. Franklin to do it, Aretha's father.
Okay.
Men of God. And my grandfather, O.L. Williams, who spoke against this evil. While the white ministers in the same city wouldn't even lift a finger. They were like, oh, I ain't got nothing to do with that. I don't see that. What happened? But it's funny when you see these congregations of people like Joel Osteen. Go back when they had that flood in Houston. And people were being flooded out of their houses. Mm-hmm. Joel Osteen took over the old arena that the Houston Rockets used to play in and made it a church.
I'm thinking.
And while people out there,
they were for October.
Underwater, he had enough room in that church that he could have housed those people in there.
Now, does that include
until the rain subsided?
Does that include the contact notes too, or no? Okay.
But Joel Osteen sat back and said, "Hey, we don't have enough capacity to fit those people. Some people.
It should be more than 10 minutes because you get paid for the non-billables to make them into right. I remember you saying that.
I'm going, now you used to play in the old arena
That's okay.
that the Houston Rockets played in
That's okay. I
before they
already did.
moved over to the
Just wanted the
Toyota
system
Center.
for the 28th of October for Mr.
I think it
Watson
was the
anyway
Summit,
for 20
if
minutes
I'm not
because I went to
mistaken.
his house.
That's what
Well, the address
the
on
old
file.
arena
He
the
wasn't there.
Rockets used to play
None of his
in.
numbers work. I've been doing this for 3 weeks.
And
I did to
you
this person.
couldn't
She
let
sent something out.
none of those people in.
Okay.
And I'm quite sure it was some white evangelicals in New Orleans who could have
Okay.
raised their hand and gave help to those
So,
folks in New Orleans that needed, but they didn't. Mm-mm. It's bad enough that
okay.
the president at the time, George Bush, called them refugees. These people were United States citizens, but that's how these folks treat you.
Okay.
But you'll leave your church that you've been attending, talking about God sent you over to these places when you just wanted to go anyway. And you watch how these people suffer while these
Okay.
folks get richer and richer.
Okay.
Now they'll go after that black minister that's got that lakefront house and several cars and
Okay.
whatever. They'll go after him.
Okay.
But these white
So let me ask you this question.
evangelicals
So is it $29 per note? Okay.
that's flying jets across the country, living lavishly, and I'm going with the black preachers too. If you rolling with that,
Okay. I got you.
I'm on you too. I'm not saying you can't have that. I'm not. Mm-mm. But it's
Okay.
your job to serve God
All right.
and serve His parishioners and take care of His
Okay.
sheep. You take
Okay.
care. It's your job to be the shepherd to His flock,
Okay.
not herd the money in your pockets, and not
Okay.
look over the things that are
Okay.
happening. Jesus wasn't
Okay.
like that.
All right. Okay. I will. All right. Thanks. I just got a raise. Hmm. All right. Let me get these notes
The word said, "Go ye out into the world."
down.
Right? Not stand up in the pulpit and laugh hysterically. Ha 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 ha. I saw that thing and I said, "This dude, something is wrong with Kenneth Copeland. He looked like a clown." Joseph Biden won the election. I'm sorry. You mad because your orange man that you support didn't win the election? I wonder if you would have stayed up there in the pulpit and laughed hysterically if Orange Man would have won. I wonder if Paula White would have been hopping around like a pogo stick praying for Joe Biden. You pray for everybody. You don't just pray, you pray for any leader. You don't just pray for the ones you want. That's exactly what Dr. King talked about. And if you want to get a preference, You can go on Wikipedia and pull up the letter from Birmingham jail. Pull it up. Read it. That's what Martin Luther King Jr. was talking about. You ain't see Jimmy Swaggart come out when Alton Sterling was killed in Louisiana. Joe McKnight was killed. You ain't see none of these white evangelicals who watched the cop choke Eric Garner. You ain't see none of them say nothing about that. Or John Crawford being killed in Ohio. You know that. Or Tamir Rice. Darrell Scott, black preacher, big time Trump supporter, loves his boy Trump. That happened right there in his city of Cleveland. When all the other ministers stepped in the gap to pray, and Darrell Scott was nowhere to be found. But he gets on the phone, sitting by his daddy Trump, telling, I just got off the phone with the leader of the big gangbanger thugs in Chicago. And they said, if you drop some money over there, they'll lower the body count. Then when somebody called him on it, he talking about he misspoke. He hadn't had enough sleep. No, Negro, you lied. You lied. You lied just like the man you were sitting by, the orange man. You lied. You got the nerve to call our folk gangbanger thugs. And you sitting right beside a thug. Yeah, I'm coming at some of the black ones too. That tap dance in there, Crayflow, Darrell Scott. Y'all know who I'm talking to. If you tap dance in that mess, I'm gonna call you. TD, if you stepping in that TD, I'm gonna call you too. They ain't scared. But I kind of know TD ain't stepping with y'all like that with that crazy mess.
TD ain't none of that. TD over a whole bunch of other folks. TD ain't in that same conference.
TD spoke out about George Floyd. He did. Jamal Bryant, definitely. Jamal Bryant understands that could have been him. And there's other black ministers said that could have been us. John Jenkins said that could have been me. Even Pastor Hicks, who was formerly over Metropolitan, spoke out about that. But Harry Jackson, who just passed away, nah. He kind of like slid behind it because he always went to the White House to see his boy Trump and talk about pro-life and all that other stuff. And you got some other black folks. I ran into them on Facebook. If a man honors a man about killing babies, and I said, sweetheart, hold up. If a man of God doesn't stand against another man killing another man, then what's that? I said, these folks is only pro-life when they want to be pro-life. George Floyd was a human being. Tamir Rice was a human being. Trayvon Martin was a human being. Jordan Davis was a human being. Rakia Boyd was a human being. What's the pro-life in that? Breonna Taylor was a living human being. Where's the pro-life for her? Breonna Taylor spent her life saving lives to only lose her own. An emergency, a highly decorated emergency medical technician, lost her life in her own home. See, y'all folks better wake up. But like I said, in a few months, we will have a new president, the 46th president. And if you still crying about 45 was cheated out the election, and you still crying about what fraud was committed, I guess every American was fraudulent, according to what your man said, and even you white evangelicals are saying. I guess every American was flawed. Every American lied when they went and cast a ballot. I guess I'm flawed, my wife flawed, and everybody else that I know that cast a ballot was doing a fraudulent thing. Y'all keep on. And some of you folks running up in their congregations, y'all better wake up and smell the coffee. They don't care nothing about you. When Kenneth Copeland is flying in his private jet, he ain't damn sure ain't thinking about you. But it's your tithes and offerings that's supposed to be going to the church, filling up the gas tank of that plane. When he pulls up there in his limousine and you pull up there in your 1919 get out and push, think about it. I guarantee if your young son is killed by the police and he's unarmed, you think Kenneth Copeland will think about you? He'll probably condemn you just like the Orange Man did. But y'all like the video, hit like. If you didn't like it, I don't care. But I still love you. Peace.